Remembrance Assembly. I'm the assistant principal here at Forest Park Middle School, Mr. Beltran, and I will be serving as today's Master of Ceremonies. We will begin with the presentation of flags from the Forest Park Honor Guard, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Detail, post, colors. Detail, right face. Detail, hand salute.
We ask that you please rise, place your right hand over your hearts, and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you to our sixth graders, Molly and Cam, for leading us in the pledge. We will now have our district superintendent, Dr. Alvarez, to share her opening remarks.
Detail, salute. Detail, about face. Forward, march.
Thank you to Molly and to Cameron for providing us with the Pledge of Allegiance today, and for our Forest Park police officers for being here and providing the color guard for us. Good morning, Forest Park students, staff, and families. I'm going to take off my mask so you could hear me a little bit better. Today, we are providing a remembrance assembly of 9/11. It is a day to honor and remember the sadness, but also the courage and heroism of that day for those that responded to the tragedy and after. For many of you, you were either not born or too young to remember. However, there are a handful of us, like myself, that 9/11 has become a date where you will never forget, particularly where and what you were doing when the planes hit the World Trade Center and the Pentagon. For me, I was teaching sixth grade and had gone down to get something from the main office when I heard the secretary speaking of the crash. At the time, we were told that big cities may be considered as targets. Families were scared, and many began to pull their children from school with the uncertainty of what was going to happen. That night, television showed the horrific depictions of that day, and late night comedy shows were suspended to honor those we lost. Laughter stopped, and we held our children and families tight that night. Here are some statistics of that day. The first plane hit at 8:46 a.m., the second at 9:03 a.m. On that day, we lost 3,000 lives. The skies were silenced, and for weeks, no planes traveled, creating an eerie sense all around us. It took 9 months to go through the tower rubble, and 343 firefighters died. Passengers aboard United Flight 93 heard about the previous airplane attacks and attempted to retake control of the plane from hijackers. As a result, the hijackers deliberately crashed the plane in a Pennsylvania field instead of their unknown target. One of the heroes on Flight 93 was Todd Beamer, who made a call on the plane to inform what was happening. And before he hung up, his last infamous phrase was, "Are you guys ready? Let's roll," which has been heard since then. This phrase has become a statement of heroism and used in songs to honor him and other lives lost on 9/11. That was 20 years ago, and our lives have changed because of 9/11. Since then, we went to Iraq, Afghanistan, and we lost 7,000 lives in this war. So as you see, the significance of 9/11 carried on, and for this reason, we cannot forget. On 9/11, our country became briefly united, but soon turned to hate for many of our own. This tragedy continued to affect us by generalizing and isolating Muslims. We need to teach about that day with love rather than hate. And more importantly, remember what makes us alike. We need to be sensitive to how this affects our Muslim students and families. We have many Muslim students in our district, not only from Middle East, but also from places such as India, Africa, and Eastern Europe. 9/11 is a day to teach acceptance. It provides further opportunity to teach about tolerance, as well as honoring the significance of that day. Like that day, we should always see ourselves as united and strong. And now, we will have some students, your classmates, presenting today for our assembly. And I want to remind you all to please be supportive and respectful of everyone who participated. It takes a lot of courage and vulnerability to volunteer to be part of something like this. And I'm so very proud of each and every one of them to be part of today's presentation. And so I want to thank you. And just like it was said before, are you guys ready? Let's roll. Next, we have the presentation of our district mission, vision, and equity imperative.
Forest Park Public School District 91 will be acknowledged by all as a safe and nurturing and diverse and learning community that establishes the highest standards for innovation and continuous improvement to achieve excellence and a global citizenship for each individual child.
Hi, I am Jaden King from Phil Stevenson School. Our mission in partnership with home and community is to educate each individual child into a safe and nurturing environment. We will foster respect and self-worth, teach skills relevant to contemporary life, and promote academic success and creative expression. We will encourage an appreciation of the rich culture diversity of our community and instill a sense of wonder for the future to enable our students to become lifelong learners and responsible citizens of the world.
Recognizing that systematic bias has plagued our educational systems, we commit to nurturing dialogue around all issues of inequality, including culture, race, faith, social, economic status, gender identity, sexual orientation, and different abilities
as they pertain to classroom practice, school and district structures, and policy and procedure. We support actions removing barriers to opportunities that allow the children to reach their full potential.
Thank you, Dr. Alvarez, for the opening remarks, and thank you to the students for sharing the district mission, vision, and equity. Now, we will enjoy various performances from our talented students from across the district.
Oh, beautiful forestation skies, forever winds of spring, for purple mountain majesties, above the frozen plain. Watching his grace like clouds that come weather, all seem to find its fate.
Hi everyone, I'm Miss Carini, the music teacher at Garfield School. In honor of Patriots Day, the second graders will perform to Stars and Stripes Forever by John Philip Sousa.
Thank you to all our wonderful students showing off their wonderful talents for us this morning. We are now pleased to have with us to make some remarks, member of the school board, Mr. John Lyons.
Thank you and welcome, students. Today is about remembering and honoring those who lost their lives in this horrific attack on the United States 20 years ago. Each morning on September 11th, anyone who is old enough to remember will recall where they were on that frightful day. As Dr. Alvarez shared, news started coming in, planes hitting the World Trade Center in New York, viewed as a horrific accident. The news about another plane hitting the tower, a plane hitting the Pentagon, and planes crashing in Pennsylvania. Nobody knew what truly was happening, but at that moment, it changed history and our lives forever. The United States lost 2,996 people that day. We lost mothers, we lost fathers, we lost grandparents, aunts, uncles, friends, and neighbors. We've lost firefighters, police, nurse, EMTs, secretaries, managers, janitors, teachers, cooks, waitresses, and delivery men. We lost people from every faith, and we lost people that were young and old. The 2,996 lost were all heroes in some regard. Each of these people woke up on that day not knowing that they would never return home again. Today, 20 years later, we still remember, we honor each of them. Each life lost that day has a story to tell and a story to celebrate. My advice to you, the generation that was not born yet on this frightful event happened, is to live each day to the fullest. You'll never know when it might be your last. Think about how you want to be remembered. Think about how you can impact your community, your school, your class. Be a volunteer, be a good friend, be a better student, be a role model to a younger kid. Strive to be a better version of yourself. And when you do these things, think of each person who was lost on that day on 9/11. Today, we honor each of those by being a better version of ourselves today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lyons. We'd now like to introduce our Deputy Chief of Police of Forest Park, Deputy Chief Gross.
Thank you, everyone. I'm Deputy Chief Ken Gross with the Forest Park Police. And just a few things. 9/11 was a sombering day. I was working that morning when the planes crashed into the tower. And I can't say much more than has been said by the superintendent and the assistant principal. But I remember sitting at Madison and in Harlem and looking eastbound and just praying and hoping that a plane wouldn't crash into the Sears Tower. And thankfully, one didn't. And that morning, I was given a post. I had to guard a grade school as parents were coming and taking their kids, and there was panic among everyone. But the positive that came of that day was the unity that moment brought to the citizenry and the people of Forest Park and the U.S. and the positive things that people saw in policing, because as people were running away from the World Trade Center, law enforcement officers and firemen were running towards it to save lives, and many of them lost their lives. And if anyone gets a chance, go to the memorial in Lower Manhattan and see it. It's a very sombering experience, and bless everyone who lost their lives that day. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Chief. As we close, as the deputy mentioned, if you're ever in the Manhattan area, please take a visit to the site. I have been to the site, and it is a powerful, powerful site. And as I went through it, I saw a tile from a child that said, "Daddy, when are you coming home?" Because that morning, my child was tugging at my own leg, saying, "Daddy, when are you coming home?" I could give my daughter an answer. This daughter is still waiting. It's important we never, ever forget this day. In closing, I prepared a video recording of taps on the trumpet. and we will close today's assembly with a moment of silence afterwards. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Go.